Welcome to the Trevor Zoo. I'm Jessica Bennett, and I want to welcome you to this month's episode of Live from the Trevor Zoo. It's great to be with you this afternoon. I'm the Director of Programs, and if you've watched some of our other live shows, you know that I deeply care about the environment. I love my job here because I can combine my love for the environment and conservation with educating people. I moved here 16 years ago to start working at the zoo, and because the Hudson Valley is a beautiful part of the country with lots of forested areas. In my free time, I enjoy hikes and spending time in nature with my family. I know that many of you do too. We get many requests from schools and scout groups asking about how to incorporate forests and wildlife into their group projects. We're happy to be a resource, and hopefully you can learn a little with me today. Please feel free to ask questions throughout today's episode. Type them into the comments and we'll answer them toward the end of the show. The Earth is made up of many biomes. A biome is a distinct biological community that formed in response to a shared physical climate. Forests are an example of a biome, and others include freshwater, marine, desert, grassland, and tundra. Within these biomes are many different ecosystems. Today, we're going to talk about forests and their importance for wildlife and for us. Forests are home to 80% of the world's remaining terrestrial biodiversity. Additionally, around 1.6 billion people rely on forests for shelter, livelihoods, water, food, and fuel security, including 300 million people who live in forests. 70 million of whom are indigenous people. Forests are amazing places that connect us with an older, wilder world, places that have purpose beyond profit. Yes, forests supply us with products such as wood to make furniture, paper, cardboard products, but there are more resources that forests provide for us. This is called ecosystem services, or the natural benefit provided to humans by the natural environment and a healthy ecosystem. Some examples of forest ecosystem services are habitats for wildlife and plants, helping to purify water, producing soil, reduction of soil erosion, removing carbon from the atmosphere, providing medicines, and shade and cooling. Wow, that's a lot of benefits. Thank you, forests. Our forests are under threat, primarily due to rapid and sustained conversion to agriculture, urbanization, and systematic effects of climate change and unsustainable harvesting practices. The wholesale use of forest products, including timber and paper that are derived from these unsustainable practices, contribute directly to this threat. On the other hand, the sustainable use of forest products provides local livelihoods and provides an avenue for increasing scientific knowledge that can guide further ecological management decisions. Natural forests help promote diversity and stability in an area. As we teach our Millbrook students, diversity in an ecosystem promotes stability in an ecosystem. The more plants and animals that coexist in a forest, the healthier the forest will be. Humans have shaped the land here in the U.S. over hundreds of years. In the Northeast United States, many forests were cut for agriculture by European settlers. This practice continues today in many parts of the planet. When we clear cut a forest, we lose all the ecosystem services, which I just mentioned. The soil can be depleted of nutrients very quickly, and many animals lose their habitat. Habitat loss is one of the largest contributing factors as to why animals become endangered. What we can do to help animals and to protect their habitats is champion sustainably sourced paper and wood products. Later in the show, I will tell you more about the Forest Stewardship Council, which is the world's leading organization helping businesses protect our natural resources. Our forests supply us with many resources, and this time of year in the Northeast, our maple forests are supplying us with a natural and sustainable tasty treat. Late winter each year, when the weather warms above freezing during the day and below freezing at night, the tree sap moves within the tree, and this tree sap is the only ingredient required to make maple syrup. New York State has the largest resource of tappable maple trees in the United States and has over 2,000 maple syrup makers. Maple syrup is a natural, unrefined, and nutritious sweetener. Before the world started producing cane sugar in industrial quantities, maple sugar made from the syrup was the primary sweetener used in America. Last week, our director, Dr. T, headed over to nearby Amenia to the farm of our longtime friend, veterinarian, and Millbrook graduate, Dr. Julian Strauss, who now makes maple syrup from the forest on his farm. Dr. Strauss graduated from Millbrook School in 1954 and was lucky to have been a student in Zooey under the tutelage of Frank Trevor himself. In fact, Julian says he owes everything to his experience here at Millbrook and the Trevor Zoo. And considering Dr. Strauss's incredible life accomplishments, that is no small claim to make. After graduating from Cornell University, being a staff veterinarian in Haiti and the Malaysian National Zoo, working for the Inter-American Development Bank, and then the Harvard School of Public Health, Julian returned to the family farm to settle down as a country vet. As our consulting veterinarian for 40 years, Julian played a huge role in the growth and success of the Trevor Zoo. In 2016, Julian was awarded the Edward Pulling Community Service Award for extending the principles and spirit of community service in his life beyond Millbrook. Although he recently retired from veterinary practice, Julian keeps very busy on the farm, including making maple syrup. Let's have a look.
Hi, everybody. I'm here with Dr. Julian Strauss, and we're going to talk a little bit today about his sugaring operation, his life, and anything else that comes to mind as we meander about. Hi, Julian.
Yeah, hi. Nice. Delighted always to have somebody from Millbrook here, because I'm an alumni of the school, alumnus of the school, and so anything I can do to help the school in their teaching program is something that I'm interested in doing. So this is the house over there is where I was basically born and raised, and I've been here 85 years, more or less, on and off. And you know, I know when you're talking about trees, I know those trees. This used to be here, right in this area, it used to be an apple orchard. And that whole hillside up there was basically pasture.
Yeah.
So that's all, quote unquote, new growth. So I've seen a lot of trees been growing here. And we got started with the my neighbor, Dennis Johnson, and I went in and bought a sawmill, and we got slashed from the sawmill just using wood that we had in the woods just falling, you know, and put it on the mill. We had all this stuff, and we said, well, we've got to do something with the wood. And Dennis, well, why don't we make maple syrup? So we started out with the old bucket system, and he did it. I mean, because I was still veterinary practice, and I was still busy, and so we started drawing sap, and we had a little evaporator here, an old milking machine, vacuum pump, and we set up there, and we were so thrilled. You know, we got a whole gallon of syrup, and then the next year we got bigger, and then the next year we got bigger, and then we made a new evaporator over there, or Dennis made one, and we were really making syrup, and you know, and then we heard about a guy who had a house and wanted to get rid of the garage, and we went and picked it up and brought it here, and that's when we started to get serious.
Yeah, yeah.
We're hoping to make. Last year we made over 200 gallons, which isn't, you know, compared to the big guys, isn't huge, but it's a lot of syrup.
Yeah.
and we're into the production, and Dennis, you know, he's very, very particular, very, very meticulous about being right on the line. Everything's got to be just perfect. And I'm, you know, I'm the gopher. I got the tractor, and I got, you know, I can move stuff around a little bit with his help. And so production is our thing, but marketing we weren't into.
Yeah.
So fortunately my daughter came home, and she lives next door, and So she's into the marketing.
Yeah.
And so now we have a way of getting rid of this stuff.
Yeah.
Basically, most of what we do is social capital.
You're right.
And everything here we do is we barter. You know,
Right, sure.
Our little house here, drying shed for, well, even the pallets,
Yeah.
all of the tools. You know, what do you want for it? Well,
Yeah.
a couple gallons of syrup would be nice. Fair enough.
Yeah. Well, that of course, goes way back to the way things were done forever and ever. A lot of bartering went on.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly good system.
This whole woods here, as I say, was pasture land when I was a kid. I mean, and that's the crazy thing. When you get older, you say, "Holy mackerel!" This is all new growth.
Yeah.
This was all open land. I mean, some of the bigger trees were there,
Right.
but basically, this was all the way to the crest of the hill was open.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the woods, you'll see barbed wire fence still embedded in the tree.
Yeah.
And so it's all grown up in my lifetime.
Yeah.
This is our first bush that we did, was in this area here, and then we started to go up the hill.
I don't know if your camera will pick that up, but you can see the sap flowing in the tubes here.
Bennett loves that.
The amazing thing when you start to watch it, and of course there's a lot of tubing here, and so is a lot of trees, but you start to see, because this is, it's not all obviously the trees are living and doing fine. It's not all the sap that's out of the tree.
No.
And you see how much water these trees bring up and
they're pumping.
And pumping, yeah.
They're pumping.
It's really amazing.
Watch your step here.
Biology, physiology, whatever you want to call it.
So now one of the problems that I find is that theoretically they say you're supposed to make your taps 3 inches apart horizontally and a little bit above. Otherwise, the scar from the first will interfere with the flow. So, what seems to be happening here is that every year, the tap is a little higher.
A little higher, yeah.
When we started down here,
Right.
And I don't know. I asked them. I think you see here. Yeah, now here's an old tap.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now this is a relatively young tree, but it still produces a lot.
Yeah.
We're figuring about a gallon a day
Yeah.
from a tree, a decent tree,
Yep.
a tap. So there's a one tap. You see that, Daniel? And then I think this is another older tap. So this bush here we've been doing probably in this way for at least 6 years, 7 years. And when we take, at the end of the season, when the buds come out and we stop, we think we're done. But there's always the chore of pulling the taps.
Pulling the taps and cleaning everything back up.
This is a 40-acre woodlot, according to the assessor. And so we have we think almost 1,000 taps. We're not absolutely sure. And some of them we haven't tapped this year, maybe 20 or 30, which I haven't got around to yet.
Yeah.
We're so busy with this. So that's why I figure about a gallon per tree per day on a good day.
So when it's coming in fresh out of the tree,
yeah, it's 1.5%.
so 2%. That's 40 gallons or so to a gallon?
Well, that's what they say, 40 to 50. Sometimes it gets up to. It depends on the rainfall. I think in the autumn before, how much water is in the ground. But I think we're happy if we're getting 1.5%, 2%.
I think there's also some tree individuality too, because I've got even in my 10 trees, one tastes like practically sugar, and the other one tastes like the hose water. I'm like, come on, there's something different here.
Yeah.
But it all depends, I guess, what's coming out of the
Plant
ground
breeding.
too, maybe. Your operation is bringing in the sap into bigger and bigger lines,
Yeah.
and then you're getting down here,
that's
and
a
it all comes into one collector.
That's a receiver, that blue thing on top of the tank.
Yeah.
And there's two compartments, and it's under vacuum, the 22 or 23 pounds of pressure, negative pressure. And so as one fills up, and when it gets full, it shifts over by vacuum to the second tank, and the first tank dumps down into the old milk tank. See this tank right here?
Yeah.
Is full of RO water.
Yeah.
So that's water that normally we would have to boil off with wood.
Yeah.
So that's and now when it gets totally full, it overflows and goes into the marsh.
Right.
But that's pure RO water.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this here is RO water that's coming out of the tank, going into the RO, which I'll show you, and then going back into this tank. And so we recycle it. We take sap that comes out of the RO from this, and go back through the RO and make it more and more and more concentrated. So we theoretically we can get it up to 10 or 11%.
Right. From 1.5 or so.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that's by taking all the water out. So this is our box, mechanical box. Yeah. Loaded with stuff, including a radiator, so that on cold nights we can keep it warm in here, so things don't freeze up.
Right.
Well, we have the three RO canisters, and they're basically secondhand from hospital use, you know. So we got a decent price on them. And then we have this is the vacuum pump.
I'd like to point out that we're walking on the old
Millbrook's
hockey rink, rubber coated, so that when the boys came off the ice with their skates, they didn't dull their blades, and we're repurposing.
Yeah, and this is right here. You can see where the skates were.
And they came pre-cut with square holes because that's where the posts were that held up the bench.
So everything in here is repurposed. This is, I think, since you were here this last. These two stainless steel things came from the Oswego County Jail.
Oh, okay.
But in one piece, we cut it. Cut it in two, and I think $150. I mean, crazy price. And so come on in. Now, for demonstration purposes,
now we're talking the heart of the operation.
This is, well, I mean, the box out there that I just showed you is the heart of the operation. And that's what takes a lot of his time. So a lot of times when I'm in here, it used to be a joke. You know, I'm going out for 5 minutes, I'll be right back, and this would be coming up, and I wouldn't know what to do. But I've learned now. Cut the air. So this is the evaporating, from the RO tank. By gravity, it comes into this the evaporator, and then it goes slowly. There's a foot valve, there, a little valve there, goes into. This is the finishing tank.
Yep.
And the concentration of the sap tends to move as it's coming in from one area, moves the concentration greater and greater to this side. We just do it off this side. So when it comes time, when this is bubbling up over here, and you got very small bubbles here, and it's almost ready to draw, you need to have two people really, because somebody to, if there's an emergency, because if this starts to boil over, which it has, as you can see it's all over, it's all hands on deck. I mean, you got to be really go nuts.
And it's running about 211, 10 degrees, somewhere in there?
You want to get about 50, 55, 56, 57 bricks.
Bricks, yeah.
But the thing is, what we're measuring with the hydrometer is the bricks.
Yeah, is basically percent sugar.
Right. And so then what we do, we take it off here, and then we put it over here and boil it again with propane
Right.
to finish it, make it just exactly what he wants.
Right.
And then we put it into these jugs. These are 5-gallon jugs. So this is what we've gotten so far this year.
Yeah.
So we got over 50 gallons of. Well, we were hoping for 200, and I don't think we're going to get it.
Right. Right.
So then we take that, and we haven't seen you since we started making the sugar.
Yeah.
You heat it up again. We heat it up on the stove to 250 some odd degrees. I mean, and then you pour it into a bucket like this that's attached to this machine like a turntable that turns the whole bucket. And in the bucket there are 2 paddles that stick down. And as that turns, that hot syrup slowly cools and turns to sugar.
Yeah.
Basically.
Amazing.
It's amazing. When you come to the economy of the thing, you get these things that are expensive, the
Right.
jars.
Sure. Yeah.
And so we've
Gone to
gone to packs of.
packs. Yeah.
So earlier in the season, you'll get the light color, and but the thing to note is that it's perfectly clear.
Right.
And the way we get that is to heat it again, the syrup out of this jar, and run it through a pump that pressures it through a diatomaceous earth filter.
Okay. Yep.
A diatomaceous earth filter is 1 pass under hydraulic pressure, and it comes out perfect.
Yeah.
Just, there's no
Crystal.
no filter.
Crystal clear.
The whole purpose of making syrup from sap is to remove water. And so any way you have to remove water is effective. Boiling it away is one way, freezing it away is another way, and filtration doesn't work because filters don't take out, they don't separate molecularly what's water and what is impurity. And so reverse osmosis is a process of, on the molecular level, separating the water molecule from anything else, impurities. So what you get, actually, reverse osmosis water is truly pure water. It's only H2O. There's nothing else in it. Actually, when it freezes, when you see it freeze, it freezes like a glass plate. There's no bubbles in it. There's no haziness in it. It's perfectly clear.
Yeah. And actually, one of the things that makes that reverse osmosis so important, we talked outside briefly about give or take 40 or 50 to 1. So that's 40 or 50 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. So you got to boil off 39 to 49 gallons of water to get that 1 gallon of syrup. So if you can reduce the amount of water before you get to the boiling point, you're drastically cutting down your energy use to do the boiling. This is the, I think you would agree, this is the lion's heart of the energy use is the calories that have to go in to boil off the water, either from wood or oil or whatever, and cutting the wood if you're using a wood boiling system. That's where all the energy comes from. So the more you can take away that energy use by making the sap that comes in more and more concentrated, the less energy you're going to have to put in to boil it off. So that's
hugely less.
Great energy reduction, which of course is good for the industry, good for the environment, and yet you still get the fantastic product of the syrup.
Yeah, right.
As you can see, there are plenty of things we can do to keep our forests as natural as possible, but still get a big benefit from them. It's interesting that Julian's maple trees, from which he gathers the sap, were not even there when he was a child growing up on his parents' farm. As he said, the farmers who originally settled on that land had cut down those trees, and now, during Julian's lifetime, it's been returned to its natural state. And now he's even benefiting from it with the production of maple syrup. So, as I said, the Forest Stewardship Council, FSC, is an international, non-governmental organization dedicated to promoting responsible management of the world's forests. The FSC certification scheme sets the highest standards for forest management. Products made with FSC certified wood and/or paper can be purchased from FSC certified companies or identified by FSC labels. Forest Stewardship Council has developed a system of forest certification and product labeling that enables people to easily identify responsibly sourced wood, paper, and other forest products. The World Wildlife Fund recognizes them as the hallmark of responsible forest management. An FSC label on a wood or wood-based product assures that it is made with or contains wood that comes from FSC certified forests or recycled sources, and that its chain of custody can be traced. Some non-timber forest products such as bamboo, latex, and cork also contain FSC labels. You can see these registered trademarks on wood and other forest products around the world. By looking for these labels on your goods, we are supporting forest benefits to people and animals now and for future generations. We can also help support state and national parks and other conservation areas near where you live. Check out the links in the show notes for more about FSC and some great videos as well, which share the important mission for protecting nature. Let's have a look at a clip from one of them. So as I failed to mention at the beginning of the show, happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. It's a great day to be green, and as we've shown you, there are many ways to be green and still use the products that we need and depend on. This weekend and next, here at the Trevor Zoo, we will be celebrating our forest's tasty treats in our first ever March Maple Syrup Madness weekend. We are going to have free tastings of locally made maple syrup, including Dr. Strauss's. And you'll be able to purchase a number of maple products that not only support local sustainable businesses, but also help support the Trevor Zoo. So now we'd love to hear your questions, and I will try to answer them to the best of my ability. If you have any questions about forests, wildlife conservation, maple syrup production, or anything about the Trevor Zoo, just go ahead and ask them in the comments here. So I see that we have a question from Julie, who would like to know if you can only tap maple trees. Well, all trees are going to have sap, but maple trees are the tree that have a tasty sap, and there are many types of maple trees. The sugar maple is beneficial for a couple of reasons. The sap in the maple tree is actually going to be a little sweeter than the other maple maples, but you still can tap those as well. The other great thing about the sugar maple is that it's dormant longer in the season, so you can actually tap it for longer and get more of the sap. All right, and it also looks like there's a question from Kylene, who would like to know if you can get maple syrup any time of the year. So thankfully, we have a lot of maple syrup vendors in the New York State area because it's one of the largest state producers. So you can certainly buy maple syrup anytime, but you can only make maple syrup in the late winter, early spring. So the reason why is because you need the temperatures to go above freezing during the day and below freezing at night so that the sap within the tree will be moving, and it will come out of the. You can take it out of the tree, and once the weather is warmer and will be above freezing day and night, then the buds will come out of the tree and leaves, and then they need that water. But before then, the tree doesn't need it, and it's still dormant. So it's a great free resource for us. So I don't know if we have any other questions. It doesn't look like that. So if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd like to remind you that you can view all of our previous episodes at Live from the Trevor Zoo on our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Trevor Zoo Millbrook. Come back next month for our Earth Day celebration and Party for the Planet programming. This year's theme ties in well with today's episode: healthy habitats, clean, create, and connect with nature. You can also watch our streaming cameras throughout the zoo 24 hours a day at www.millbrook.org/Trevor Zoo Live. Thanks for spending part of your Wednesday with us. If you're in the area, please come visit us in person, especially this weekend and next, so you can taste some of that free maple syrup. It's easy to make a reservation at our website, which is www.trevorzoo.org. We're open every day. We'll be back here live from the Trevor Zoo next month. Thanks for watching. Bye.